Thank you, Dilip Mukherjee, Mr. Dilip Mukherjee, Dilip Da, whatever. In our Bengali uh, clan, we call it that way to seniors. So thank you for coming
You're
to the
welcome.
podcast URL. The reason you are here because we would like to explore the immigrant life for last 4 decades. You have been here and the changes you have seen and the recommendations you would like to make to the new immigrant
Right,
or who just arrived and trying to make their way.
right.
So to do that, first is okay, should I start with the question? Why did you come to Australia 4 decades ago?
When I think back, I have two reasons which I can relate quickly. Number one reason is I wanted my son to have an English society, not English language like we have in Calcutta. Like I went to school in an English medium school, not like that, but in an English based society to go to school. So not only learn the language, but learn a little bit of a culture, how they live, and why they live that way.
Okay.
That that was the first reason. And the second reason is because I was in my early 30s, I thought if I go to a place where I can be a permanent settler rather than in Singapore where I believed to be a temporary settler, then maybe I have some future.
Mm-hmm.
That means future means in terms of work, in terms of my hobby, which is literature.
Right, right. And for our audience, you have already written 3 books.
I think I've written
Right. Okay.
six books.
Okay. And we will go to that stage later. Okay. Now, second, the major questions were all the immigrants are asking or want to ask is when you guys came 4 decades ago, how was the corporate environment or how easy was to get a job or difficult?
To answer this question, I have to first mention where you are migrating from.
Yes.
In those days, 42, 43 years ago, if you are migrating from Italy or Greece, you will adjust yourself in society quickly, but you won't get a job. You won't get a 9 to 5 job. You have to do a small business, sell fruits, become a concrete mixer, become a plumber, become any trade apprentice,
Because
but you
of
won't get a job.
because of what, lack of education or there was no such
Uh,
job?
Two things, again, two things. One is those people who came here earlier than them, that means after the war, those people are mainly in trades and less in academic achievement. Therefore,
Right.
the picture or the perception of the Anglos, it was Anglo-dominated country.
Yes.
So therefore, the Anglos were thinking that they may be good in trade. It doesn't follow they'll be good in school or higher education. It doesn't follow. So let us use their core competencies, which is maybe a bricklayer, maybe a concreter, maybe a plumber. So let us make use. And the second question is some of them came without education. For example, when I'm in my first job, I used to see all the unskilled hands, they were from Yugoslavia.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, there were a lot of jobs. I would say 80% of the jobs were unskilled or semi-skilled, and 15 to 20% which needed skill, both academic and trades.
Right. What you are saying is pretty much similar in my perception when I migrated like 2 decades ago is definitely better life, That kick is there. Second is education wise, yes, when people are coming with a job, they have a very different perception. But as I came to study here, honestly, I didn't find there is too much stress or too much importance corporate world given to the education. It's more hands-on experience they have given importance. So I guess the experience is what you are saying is pretty similar, isn't it?
It is both true and not true, because they value experience based on certain basic knowledge which people acquire in high school, trade school, or university. So it depends on what job you have been offered in the first instance.
Right. And another thing is what we see at this point of time, or I have seen in last decade also, people get stuck to one certain trade. I mean, skill wise, it's okay. I mean, if you are an accountant or if you are an engineer, it's okay. You have to stick to that trade. But if you are stick to any other industries, let's say engineer in water or engineer in shipping industry, people just get stick to it. Or mining, they cannot change the industry if they want to.
I don't think that is true, because there are some transferable skills,
Yes.
and therefore you'll get a job in another industry based on how you sell those transferable skills when you are invited at the interview and in your covering letter.
Right. So Dilip da, um, we will change to little bit more serious topic now. Okay,
Okay.
what is your experience or how you see the social perception changes over time? In the sense, there are many aspects to it, I know, but when you came that time, it was purely Anglo-Saxon society. Now, when I came 2 decades ago, that time hardly we used to see Indians or Southeast Asians. Now there are definitely a lot of pockets where only you see those clans.
Yes.
So in 20 years, I have seen social perception, and because of that, I have seen some effect in the way of living in this country also. What is your experience on these changes in social perception or societal change you have seen?
To start with, I have to say that the people, those who are living here at that time, they can be categorized into two sections outside the immigrant population. That means mainly the Anglo society were divided into two groups. One group, those who are born and raised here,
Mm-hmm.
and the second group who migrated here as a Scotsman or an Englishman or a Welshman or Northern Ireland or Ireland, English speaking. I include New Zealanders as well.
Yes.
Therefore, their way of looking at society was not one. It cannot be said that they had equal weightage in looking at the society which is coming up. You have to remember that 1968 or so, or maybe 70, or maybe 75, when non-white people started coming here.
Okay.
And when I came here, I spoke to those people who came here in the 70s. For example, Ujjal's father, for example, Dr. Banerjee, for example, Dr. Patel, for example, Mr. Gandhi. And they told me that when they came here in the 70s, although they had the White Australia policy just abolished in 68 or so, there was zero discrimination based on culture or race. I have to point out that race and culture are not the same thing. It is just not the same thing because race is a construct which we have created. It is not scientific. But a culture is can be researched. It can go for thousands of years. It will have some DNA effect. It will have some tail. So it is not the same as race. When we came in, we are at the crossroads between that where Indians could speak English, so they are British only 30 years ago. I'm born 1945. They asked me, why don't you go and vote? You're born in 1945. I said, what? I'm not a citizen of this country. I can't vote. He said, so what? You're born in 1945. You're a British subject. So,
Wow.
so it was that liberal at that time.
Wow. Okay.
So that gives you a little bit of a picture how they used to view non-English speaking, non-British colony people and British colony people, even although my skin was brown.
Wow. I haven't seen this way any immigrant story for that matter.
Because you haven't experienced it.
Yes. Or in a normal conversation, this kind of thing doesn't come up. So, okay.
It depends upon your interest, your reading.
True. True. In my experience, what I have seen, to some extent, what you have said is I came to Gold Coast. And for us, when we came as a student, the typical odd jobs used to be dishwashing and cleaning and that type of jobs. But when I moved to Sydney, I have seen that all international students are working everywhere: Woolworths, Coles, supermarkets, anywhere, even banks. That was a very eye-opening thing. In due course, now it's changed a whole lot. Okay. Um, okay. So what you said, and now how you see the social perception changed towards non-Anglo-Saxon people, or the non-Anglo-Saxon people perception changed because of a lot of people came, because of education, because of money they are bringing into this country. What are the reasons?
This is very complex
Okay.
because from what I said, there was another period, say roughly 10 years. And in that 10 years, immigration was quite tight.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, the demand for labor was more than the supply of labor. So you will be treated differently if you had skills. And then again, obviously, like the Italians and like the Greeks who came here without skills, they will look at you exactly the same way they looked at the Greeks and
Mm-hmm.
Italians,
Mm-hmm.
except that we could speak English and they couldn't.
Yes.
So speaking somebody's language means understanding somebody's culture to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the advantage which the non-Greeks and non-Italians had. People like us. This guy speaks English means he will know a little bit about our culture. They
Yes.
know it straight away.
Or at least in this new land, you have to communicate, right?
Yes.
If like a language is the
Yes.
barrier, then
Yes.
how come you make friendship, or at least,
Yes.
yeah, for day to day,
Yes.
you have to
Yes.
communicate. Okay.
Yes. But it doesn't follow. This is very important to understand that it doesn't follow that if I am MSc in engineering, I'll get a job which which is actually entitled for an MSc in engineering. It doesn't follow. If you have MSc in engineering, I may get a job 2 rungs or 3 rungs below MSc in engineering. Why? Because they never valued our education system equal to their education system, not because of the color of your skin.
Right, right. Okay, okay. Do you think that that beat is still exist?
I believe it depends on economic theory. It doesn't depend on the social outlook of a particular group.
Mm-hmm.
If the economics of this place, the aggregate demand is more for a particular job than the aggregate supply, the discrimination will be zero, and your opportunity cost of not taking you will be so high that they will take you. So it is dictated by economics, not by social outlook.
Right. So this is dictated by economics, which I really like, and I would like to point out more on that. So, yes, one easy way of understanding is more demand, the whole society will behave in certain way. Less demand, society will behave in certain way. Now, for example, at one point of time, there was a lot of demand on IT people or engineers. They came, they got a good job. Definitely, when you are earning good money, good house, good car came, and then demand got out from the market, and they are out of job, and then the struggle starts. Now, the reason I ask you this question, when you guys came or in your time, redundancy or out of job everyday was not an everyday issue, but now it's rampant, it's everywhere, and
Yes.
people are struggling to cope with it. People are struggling to understand what is basic and what is fluff, what is frills. So my question to you is, let's say you come here, you start your life with a big demand, then that particular skill set demand got down. How to cope, or how you guys coped at that point of time, or what is your take on that?
To answer this question, I got to divide the labor market broadly into two sections. One section is government, that means government as an employer, state government and federal government, and council. And the other category is purely private or capitalist system, those who are in the business to maximize profit. So you got to divide this into two.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the government, any government, the probability of you losing the job is maybe 2%.
That's not the case anymore, I guess.
Okay, that will come later on. But before that, if you've lost a job in the private market where they are maximizing profit, the probability of getting a job with your competitor is high, say about 50%. But outside competitors, the probability of getting the job may be 1%. Why? Because there is no network. They don't know you, you don't know them.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned network. How important was that, or how relevant it is?
I would say, I would say if you left a job or you are made redundant, particularly in the government sector, you will not get another job if you never had a network.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the private sector, it is pretty automatic that you will have some network. Why? Because you got competitors, you got your buyers, you got your sellers, you got your suppliers, you got your spare parts suppliers, you got your service suppliers. So you got a network. So what I can do, I jump on the phone, I'll ask my competitor, I'll ask my service provider, I'll ask my spare parts provider, you have a job for me because I lost my job. So you have somebody to talk, somebody to approach. You do the same if you are in the federal government or state government. And I've been told this, I got personal experience. I've been told this, oh, you worked Melbourne Water for 15 years. All you all do in Melbourne Water is twirl your thumb. You never did any work. That's exactly what I was told.
Yeah. Okay. So what
It's
you're
clearly perception.
yeah. So in a way, what you're trying to say, or what I experienced is, It's a very conservative society that way, isn't it?
No, it is not a conservative society.
Okay.
It is a society where the, the demand for labor is not that acute
Mm.
that I have to pay your opportunity cost. I can get a block from Malaysia if half the price. I'll get a block from Malaysia half the. This is an open. Before we came, or rather, just when we came, it was a closed society. That's why the dollar, Australian dollar, was higher than the American dollar. But after Bob Hawke and Paul Keating opened the economy, I could get a block from Malaysia for half the price. Why should I hire you? So it is a game of economics. It is not a game of social discrimination, racial discrimination, job discrimination, skill sets, education. It got nothing to do with that. It is economics, economics, and economics.
Hmm. So how you see this economics is definitely different than US, because you
Yes.
also been there and worked globally. How that economics, I mean economics in the sense I'm basically trying to point out the openness to experience new thing, or openness to give someone a chance to do something different which is not previously there. So how economics see that, or how that is dependent on economics.
How economics see that again depends on two things. One is the risk, and the second reason is the return or the opportunity I will get at a certain economy. In the risk I will take, or what is there in the US economy is not the same as the risk in another economy, whether it is India or Britain or Australia, it doesn't matter. It's not the same risk. So it will depend on the risk. And the second thing is return is always related to risk.
Is this risk is economical risk, or is it a perception wise it's a risk?
Total is a total risk. When you calculate risk, it is not just one risk. It is financial risk, it is country risk, it is the product risk, and it's a long-term risk based on research. And the return of capital, as they call it, is the return of capital 4% here and 5% in Malaysia. I'll go and invest in Malaysia. I'm a capital holder. For producing goods and services, I need land, labor, capital, and information. So my return, land, labor, capital, and information.
Four things.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the return of my capital is more in Malaysia, even if it is 0.1%, I'll take my capital to Malaysia. I don't love you. I only love my capital and the return from it. So that depends on risk. So that 0.1% in Malaysia, I'm getting more than Australia, but what is the risk?
I'm not within my network, and I
No, it is a Muslim country. They may throw me out.
yes.
It's a smaller economy that can change fast.
So that's the risk.
That is, I'm just give two examples.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this risk averse, what typically I always find Australian market overall, or um, like or Indian client to some extent in Australia, not in US or in India, bit risk averse. Uh, is that coming from the perception, or is that coming from that economics of not taking risk, having a good life, like low return, um, low return strategy? I mean, low risk, low return strategy, not high risk, high gain strategy.
I think it depends on the aggregate economy. That means
Right.
on the aggregate, people like BHP and people like uh, big mining companies, you can name maybe 5 of them, they are making our per capita income so high, it will automatically make me risk averse. Why? I'll ask myself, why should I take more risk when my per capita income in this economy is 66,000 US dollars?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It is foolish to foolish to take a risk.
Mm-hmm.
I might as well not take any risk and let China send me, or India or Malaysia send me everything what I need.
Mm-hmm.
I got too much money.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, to answer your question, the risk averseness in this economy has come because the amount of per capita income, or the capital which this economy was attracting from UK, Europe, and the United States was giving us enough wealth to give us 66,000 per capita.
Mm.
India's per capita income is 2,500. So obviously they are the ones who will be taking more risk to gain more. I don't 66,000 per capita income. Why need to take risk and make it? You see, there's a case. It's a typical case in economics. We call it diminishing returns.
Yep.
That means if I'm making 100 cups with 10 tons of material, if I increase that material to 12 tons, it doesn't mean I'll make 150 cups. Maybe I'll make 101 cup, because all the cost of labor, cost of material, cost of everything, cost of power you put, you tell yourself it's not worth it.
Yep.
So this is a typical case of diminishing return.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So therefore, why should I take more risk when the return will be hardly maybe half a thousand per capita? Why should I take more risk? It doesn't make economic sense. So that's why I always think first in terms of economics, and later on in terms of sociological perceptions.
I am in business for last 11 years now, and I'm not a very successful businessman. I'm trying different things, and I enjoy the journey. It's from my passion and from my like core interest, and I tried, and I try, and I will do many things. So I have no shame in that. But what I found in last 10 years is, first of all, as you mentioned, I had a massive struggle of network, because the way I started my business, because I was just wanted to get out from corporate world. And I started with a recruitment agency, IT recruitment agency, but because of lack of clients and lack of understanding of it, yes, I got some good clients, but overall, it's not. The main struggle was network. Okay, and for last 6 7 years, I slowly started working, trying to do some contribution in mental health early intervention, digitization uh, area, and lots and lots of struggle. It's like either like where is your product, or um, where did you work before, or it's always a struggle, like when you are saying something different things, or not everyone is saying that. I mean, the reason I'm saying it, because I used to talk about mental health 8 years ago. That time it was not a very common thing to speak openly. Because of this struggle, I would like to know from your economic point of view how you see, or what are the changes you have seen in the business world.
Okay, to answer your question, you got to categorize businesses into three areas.
Mm-hmm.
One is small business, one is medium business, and one is large business or big business or large business.
Yep.
You have to categorize. So if you talk about large businesses like IBM, or Infosys or all that, those businesses, they can afford to have a strategic plan, and based on the strategic plan, they have calculated the amount of capital, the amount of labor, and the amount of information they need.
Mm-hmm.
By information, in their sense, for big businesses, are systems.
Yes.
So they've got that sorted out. based on their strategic plan. And that strategic plan has to be done professionally.
Yes.
So that is big business. In the medium business, about 70%, 70% is not statistically significant. Statistical significance starts from 85%. So it is not statistically significant. These medium businesses, they think they have a strategic plan, but 90% of those people's strategic plan is in the head. Is nothing is written down.
Yes.
So when you have nothing written down, and I'm the financier, I got plenty of money to invest, I'll say, where's your plan? Oh yeah, I'm going to become a millionaire in 10 years. I'm going to employ 30 people. What? No, I'm not going to give my money to you, my capital to you. But when this is like a big business, when you have a proper strategic plan, giving a budget, giving capital requirement, giving human resources requirement, giving the lack of this and the demand for this, all that explanation, economic explanation, then I'll invest because I'll take a risk. So to answer your question, the medium businesses to become large businesses fall into this big hole. And this big hole is called the middle income trap, which China is facing now as an aggregate economy. India is facing as a low income trap. And the third thing which a society will tell you is a poverty trap. All these traps are based on one thing and nothing else: capital. Once I have capital, I can invest in R&D and create a product or innovate a product which will have a competitive advantage based on demand. And so people will buy. It will be profitable for me. I'll take that money. I'll pay my employees well, and some of the money I'll do further research and development. That is how you get out of the poverty trap. If you don't invest, if you start making these cups and you made a lot of money for the last 10 years, you made a lot of money in making and selling cups. You never bothered to make plastic cups. A time will come.
Oh yeah.
A time will come, the competitive advantage is gone. Yes. Why? Because he's Vietnamese or rather Malaysian. He's making cups cheaper than what I'm making. So people will go to him to buy. Why should they buy from me? So this is a middle income trap.
Right.
That's why out of 100 middle income businesses, maybe 1 or 2 become big businesses. Okay? The rest 98, they remain as middle income or they vanish.
Yeah.
The third category, as I said, is small businesses. Now, small businesses can be divided into partnership or it can be sold. The problem with small businesses, again, is 9 out of 10, they were in a trade. Like, I'm a carpenter, I'm a bricklayer, I'm a fencer, I'm a concreter. So I have some skills.
So this is for this country we're talking about, or
No, I'm talking about Western developed countries.
Okay, all right. Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about developing countries.
Okay, Western developed countries.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why? Because they got TAFE school, they got skill. They are very good carpenters, very good. Where in Malaysia, Singapore is getting there. They are getting there, but they are not there. Their skills are not that good.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make, in these Western developed countries, they have the skills, and these skills ultimately become a small business.
Yes.
Now there is a problem here. These small businesses, they will go to an accountant. They will not go to an economist to get economic advice.
Yes.
So what happens? This is the trap they fall in. Small businesses fall into this trap. And you may include that, why you failed. In economics, we have a term called opportunity cost. Okay? So, when they calculate their opportunity cost, they get the numbers wrong. And when you get the numbers wrong, you don't know how much money I should have in superannuation contribution. You don't know how much money I have to pay Roy. You don't know how much money wages I have to pay you. I got my calculations wrong, so I'm paying wrong. Either I'm paying too much or I'm paying too less. If I'm paying too less, he'll disappear. If I'm paying too much, then I'm not making money.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a typical mistake which small businesses make. It has nothing to do with anything else like what you talked about initially. It got nothing to do with that. You make a mistake of planning and determining the opportunity cost of your capital. And then if you have a proper plan, you will get capital, and then slowly from small business you will rise to medium business and you'll invest, and then you'll become large business. And one easy way to become a large business is by acquiring mergers, mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
But that takes time.
That takes time. Yeah. Exactly. So, in last 4 decades, have you seen, or how many small businesses you have seen gone into this medium business size, or how many medium business you have seen gone into large business size? Because in my last 10 years, um, some my experience is some definitely gone into couple of million dollars revenue bang because of many reasons, network, skills, or whatever, many reasons, and they just got stuck there. Now, some of them maybe they stop taking risks after that because they get comfortable, which is okay. But many of them, they are not, like, they're trying to go ahead and still they are struggling. As you mentioned about small business, medium businesses, and large businesses, um, in my last 10 years, I have seen one from medium to large, and that is actually owned by an immigrant, Indian immigrant. Um, Couple I have seen from small to medium. Uh, those two are not immigrant; they are local. Uh, what is your experience? Like, how many this transition, small to medium, medium to large, you have seen in 40 years, and how many, or how much percentage of them are immigrant-owned businesses?
To answer that question, I need to define what do I mean by small business, medium business, and big business.
Okay. Yes.
The definition of big business is distinct. Why? Because the EBITDA or the gross revenue, whichever way you want to pursue, that kind of revenue will be quite distinct. That means maybe start from $20 million. Okay. The medium businesses will not be $20 million, but it is a medium business if it is at least $8 to $10 million. And the small business, I'm generalizing now, small business generally start with a million to 2 million, and then if they can grow to 10 million, and then I can say that that is become now a middle business. But that kind of distinction or that kind of definition, if you don't do, then you really don't know what you're talking about. So the gross revenue makes a very big difference.
Okay. Then add another segment to it, which is micro uh, business, not even small, who are within 1 million, 2 million, because there are lots and lots of businesses in that bracket. And especially people who are starting new in a different um, industry, or innovation is coming, they typically start from there and they grow. So yeah, please add another. um,
They, as you rightly said, they are actually startups.
yes.
And for any startup product cycle, the first 3 to 4 years will be negative cash flows, will be everything will be negative.
Yes.
So therefore, it is hard to make a judgment, but the forecasting can be done based on the segment of the business. Segmentation is important. If it is a software industry and the segment is, say, health, I know in 10 years' time, this software will earn maybe $200 million. Therefore, I can attract a lot of capital in that. And that's how all these web-based businesses have become so rich in terms of capital. Because people can forecast. But every business you can't do that. So it all depends on what segment of the business you're talking about. But in my personal experience, I have seen that because 42 years ago or 45 years ago, we had a very good manufacturing base. So I have seen more than one business owned by Italians, owned by Greeks, not many owned by Anglo-Saxons, who were small business, but they became medium businesses. I've seen it because I was in sales for the last 20 years. So I've seen it. I used to deal with them. Like, for example, I used to deal with a cabinet maker in western suburbs. He started from his garage. Now he employs about 40 people. And his revenue, because he was my customer, his revenue is about $5 million. So you can say he's very close to going towards medium-sized business. It's still a small business, but it's very close. He's climbing. So like that, I've found many.
Have you seen or have you experienced the market is the vibrancy in the market, the spend and the risk-taking ability? It's kind of a stagnant or going down in last couple of decades, or how you see it?
To answer that question, I have to again think of segmentation. What segment of the market we are talking about. If we are talking about a web-based business, it will be completely different risk, and therefore there will be completely different type of investment. If you are talking about making cement, so then cement making will depend upon the growth in the housing market or the government expenditure in construction. So it's a very segmented market, depending on the demand of the product which I'm manufacturing. So you have to be a little more specific on the question in order to really answer that question properly.
Okay. The reason I asked you because when typically you see the US market or even Indian market for that matter, the highly scalability only possible when you are in the like a digitized world or like a software or any this kind of game. Um, rest any brick mortar store business or anything like that, there is a limitation, right? Capital wise, resource wise, whatever it might be. So everybody or most of these innovation or most of the startup world are actually trying to tackle this high scalable business. This Australian market, um, how ready they are at this point of time in the scalable business side versus the traditional business side?
I can tell you very quickly, without a lot of thinking, that they're ready, and that historically, last 40 years experience, historically, they are early adopters. Therefore, anybody who's thinking in line of what you ask me, they can rest assured that they will be adopted, they'll be able to sell, they'll be able to make money, they, they, they'll have lower risk if they are following that trend.
And in your opinion, they are doing that?
Yeah, as I said, they are early adopters, so
Right.
so there is no problems.
So that's early adoption perception in the society hasn't changed.
No.
It's there.
Yeah.
Is it going up?
That is hard to say because you have to do a trend analysis. But because more and more people are going to school and university now, the probability is very high that it is going to go up. 40 years ago, not many people used to go to the university.
Another reason, because I belong to that micro small business level. Uh, when and this thing actually became very clear to me, or when I went to US, I have seen all the big cities, and if you go, let's say, 30-40 kilometers from the city, all businesses kind of taken over by big businesses. If you go like 200 kilometers from a big city, maybe you can find a cafe or a restaurant and a, you know, a paint shop, like a hardware shop run by small business people. I'm seeing that in Australia. Okay, still in the city, cafes, restaurants are still owned by small businesses, but slowly, I guess it's declining. So overall, we are kind of approaching towards that economy what America kind of showed us. And these are all traditional businesses. It's high. It's not like the scalability is not there. So these people, these small business owners, where India, I think they have a lot of chance because they have a lot of these kind of people and youth population. Where they normally go, they end up into employment, or they go like after like beyond 200 Ks, or where they will survive, or how they will survive.
To answer that question, I got to say that it depends upon market, and when I say market, I mean segmentation of the market. That means that markets can be broadly either a monopoly or it can be pure competition. When there is a monopoly, again, you can demand economic rent if you are producing and selling something which is unique or near unique.
Mm-hmm.
And is a pure monopoly or a natural monopoly if it is water, electricity, gas, what we, by definition, we call it a public good. So, so because it is a public good, and in a economy like US, they try to privatize public good. In economics, that is called neoliberalism. Neoliberalism started from Hayek and Milton Friedman, and they argue they have destroyed a lot of economies, and they'll be destroying Bangladesh now. They are destroying Argentina now. They have excuse me. They have already destroyed a few South American. They are going to destroy Pakistan. So they'll be destroying a lot of economies now with neoliberalism. And that's why our treasurer Jim Chalmers, who is economics literate, he is very careful about not to follow neoliberalism of the US in this small economy. This economy is only a $3.5 trillion economy. He is very careful.
Mm.
People who are not economics literate, they will tell him, oh, you privatize this, you privatize that, don't give $75 electricity bill subsidy, don't spend money in starting Australian company. Those who are not economics literate, they'll say that.
Mm.
But those who are economics literate, they'll say, yeah, you give $75 subsidy. Why? Because it's a public good. Most important thing for an economy is so that people can live, spend, look after their family, and have a basic pleasure of life. And then as you grow, you'll have more and more pleasure. That is the fundamental reason why an economy exists.
Yeah.
So to compare neoliberalism of the US to the neoliberalism here it is not the same. And I'm so happy that a person who is economics literate like Jim Chalmers, he's a treasurer. I'm very happy. So that probably answers some of your question. And the second part of the question which you made is about this, why these big businesses are buying up small businesses. Again, if it is pure competition, what happens is pure competition thrives on marginal cost. If I make 100 cups and sell each cup at $10, how much will be 101st cup which I make, how much will that cost me? That is called marginal cost. So in a comparative economy, if Roy makes the 101st cup at $3 and I make the 101st cup at $5, people will go to buy from him because he can afford to sell 101 cups at a lower price than me. So pure competition is something like commodity. In commodity, we say it's a straight line curve parallel to the x-axis. That's what we say. What it simply means that price is equal to demand is equal to marginal cost. In mathematics, that's what it means. That means the price will be dictated by demand, and demand will be dictated by marginal cost. So the law of diminishing returns comes into it. He will not make too many cups because he's going to spend too much money making cups. So he has done his equation, optimization equation, he has already done that. Where he said, I'm not going to make more than 100 cups. Yes. You're mathematics literate, you understand. So pure competition is a loser's game. That's why most of these small businesses fail, because they are in pure competition. Pure competition is a loser's game. Okay. So the next is monopoly, as what I said. And pure monopoly is like gas, electricity, water, and all that is pure monopoly. There are pros and cons in that. But to answer your question about US and here, US is trying to privatize that. If Jim Chalmers is alive, he will not allow them to do that, which Jeff Kennedy did in this electricity market. That's wrong. When he said wrong, I mean it doesn't fit into the economic model of non-neoliberalism. It fits in the economic model of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism said you privatize every bloody thing as much as you can, as much as you can. Why? Because you are a profit maximizing business, and because you are a profit maximizing business, you will run electricity company better than me. But non-neoliberal argues that if Roy can run electricity company efficiently, by efficient I mean productivity is high, there is no reason why I can't do it as a government. Because I will hire managers who are economics and finance literate. I will hire managers who are technically qualified, and I'll fire the bastards if they don't perform. Which previous governments, by history, they used to never fire. So the new government got to learn how to fire people if you're not performing. That, by definition, is called accountability. In private businesses, there is accountability. I'll fire him if he doesn't perform. Governments don't do that. They have to start doing that. That's why the third world country economies are, the per capita income is $2,000. Why? Because there is no productivity. Why there is no productivity? Non-performance is not punished. Exactly. Non-performance has to be punished. So if I'm government, why can't I do it? If he can do it, I can do it. When I hire you, I'll tell you, Matt, I'll sack you if you don't perform. Like he does the same, because he is private, he can do it. Why can't I do it? So I love Jim Chalmers. Jim Chalmers is my kind of treasurer.
But that means like privatizing everything is also not an answer.
No, that is neoliberalism.
Yeah. And it will create a lot of hassle in the society.
No, it is not create hassle. That is not the society I need, I want to live in. I want to live in a society where I'll get a living wage, I'll get water, electricity, gas, my children can go to school, go to hospital when they are sick. and the nurses won't be raped. That means the police system and all that society is looked after. That is the meaning of society. That is the meaning of economics. That is the goal of economics. Goal of economics is not to make you millionaire. That is not the goal.
No. To have a decent life.
Yeah. And that decent life definition will change as the years go by. Why? Because innovation.
Yes. Yes.
Innovation and creativity.
You have seen in these last 4 decades that immigrants came. What we saw, that people who came in early 90s, automatically their house prices gone up, right? Um, Another thing we see is in our generation, we are in mid 40s. In our generation, when we are in late 30s, we used to, all our friends got like have kids. Okay, but a generation after us, they are started finding bit of a comfort when they are in mid 30s. Maybe the next generation will not find any comfort when they are in 40s. So in our eyes, life, what we see when we see 60 plus couples, 64-year-old couple, we see a lot of comfort. Um, they also worked hard, we also working hard. But because of certain thing happened during that time, few societal thing also happened. So how you see the immigrants' quality of life or the pleasure of life changes over time? Okay, first you say that, then I have another question after that.
To answer that question, I got to answer the question that why people immigrate or emigrate from a country A to country B. Now, to be more specific, countries like Canada or New Zealand or Australia or the US, these are called settler countries. So, any immigrant, you, me, Roy, anybody who has come with the mentality that I'm going to the US or I'm going to Canada or I'm going to New Zealand to settle there.
Yes. Not like Middle East, you just go there, earn money, come back. No.
So, there, see, in economics there is a theory called rational expectations.
Mhm.
The Yale the Yale professor who defined this and wrote a thesis on it got a Nobel Prize. So rational expectation is that important. Okay. So if you come here or US or any of these countries who are, we call it settler community. Why settler? Because full potential is not reached as yet, like France or United Kingdom or Germany.
Oh.
Here there is, or Canada or New Zealand or US, there is still steam left for it to saturate. Steam is still left. So, if an immigrant comes here with that expectation, I'm going there to settle, his expectation will not be the same if I come here with the expectation, because this is a developed economy, I will get a job suitable with my skills and with my university education so that I can get enough money to buy a house, send my son to grammar school, and buy Mercedes Benz. This is the fundamental conflict for an immigrant. It depends on his expectation.
Mm-hmm.
If he, I repeat, if he comes here with the expectation that I'm going there to settle, his expectation is I have to go through the rough patch.
Yes.
So he will complain less, so he'll be contented if he gets only 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day. Or if his friend gives him, yeah, have a cup of tea. But if Gautam comes here, my dad had a lot of money, so I'll earn a lot of money and buy a house and get a great job. His expectation is completely different to the settler mentality.
Yes.
So, in a developed economy, when you come especially from a developing economy, that expectation may not be real. And if it is not real, it will not be fulfilled.
Yes.
And if it is not fulfilled, it will be frustration. So he'll not be able to buy a house, he'll not be able to buy a Mercedes, he'll not be able to send his children to grammar school in the short term. He'll not be able to do.
No, no.
Why? Because he did not come here with the expectation that I have to struggle, I have to go with 2 meals a day, I have to go with my hand, my neighbor giving me a cup of. He did not come with that expectation. So this is the theory of expectation. So the narrative is quite different for a settler
Yes.
to the narrative of a guy who is a PhD and thinks that, oh, I'm a PhD, I'll get a lecturer's job. Therefore, I'll be able to buy a house in 5 years' time. I'll be able to send my kids to grammar school in 6 years' time. So this, you have to apply the theory of rational expectation.
Right. Right. So that means you are saying it's not about like Mercedes Benz or buying a house in 5 years. It's about
Your initial expectation.
initial expectation, and are you like walking towards that expectation or not? I mean, for me, it's like establishing a business, and for that, I have been through what I have been through or whatever. Uh, but yes, the expectation is to do that, not what I'm, what I'm, what I'm, what's the word? What I'm gathering, you know. Okay. So hardship wise, you don't want to answer that it was a hard before, it is hard lesser now. Do you want to answer that though, or
That is a very good question. That is a very good question. The reason is, uh, 40, 45 years ago, when we came here, because of restricted immigration before, and also when I came here, they said in Newsweek, we will take about 100,000 people. So I applied in Singapore embassy. I got a visa, 100,000 people they were taking, which was very high. They were taking only 50 or 60,000 people. Okay, it is very high. And they wrote in Newsweek. I showed the wife, should I apply for visa to go to Australia? She said, why? They're taking 100,000 people. It came in Newsweek, published in Newsweek. And they also published in Newsweek that this is a place with very, very low crime rate relative to other developed countries. So that's how I sold the case to my wife, that low crime rate, their dollar is higher than the American dollar. Pushan can go to grammar school. Remember, I told you, either he goes to grammar school or I go home.
you told me? Yep.
No, nothing in between.
No. Yeah.
Pushan can go to grammar school and get English society, English education. Why should I live in Singapore? So I applied for the visa and I got the visa.
You tell me. না না আমার দিকে তাকিয়ে বলো। That's fine.
Oh, video is
Yeah,
running.
yeah, yeah. আমার দিকে তাকিয়ে বলো। Okay. All right. Now, so the hardship question. Is it harder now?
That's, as I said, that's a very good question. It was very easy then. It is not hard. It is the probability of hardship now will be very high. If your expectation is that because of high technology, because of higher per capita income, because of higher industries, or because of higher education, it will be better. If that is the expectation, I'm sorry to say that you will never meet your expectation in the medium term. That means 10 years. It will take more than 10 years.
There are some article came in newspaper that especially Indians, because India is a booming market, everyone is talking at this point. Lot of people, lot of NRIs. NRI mean non-resident Indians like you and me. They would like to go back to India and settle down. Okay, I had few discussions on that, and there are a lot of Australians, Indian Australians apparently talking about this. There are a lot of US people also talking about this. Is it real? Is it, I mean, can I mean, if 2 or 3% or 1% or below 1% people are going and settle down, it's not an issue. I'm talking about, is it a real thing that can happen? I can't see that in next 20 years. Maybe after that, for sure, or maybe there is a high chance, but next 20, 25, 30 years, I'm not seeing it. What is your take on that?
It is difficult because it's just a forecast. But from the economy, what India is pursuing, or economic policies India is pursuing, it is more neoliberalism. And the reason why is the think tanks, money is coming from neoliberal economics. So if I'm
They lack
an
that kind of
economist,
leadership.
yeah, if I'm an economist in the think tank and I'm being financed by neoliberalist, then I'll be thinking in terms of neoliberalism.
Yes.
So all these economists in India who are advisors to the government, they are all 90% US educated, 10% UK educated. And they are grilled about neoliberalism. They are grilled in, it is gone grilled in the head. So therefore they will pursue neoliberalism.
Yes.
And in 30 years' time, if they pursue, India will be destroyed just like some South American countries are destroyed. They had, some of them had revolution, like Bangladesh had revolution, Ukraine had revolution, Pakistan is revolution all the time. So India will follow that path. But if they are moderate neoliberalism, not being carried away by neoliberal policies of the US
Mm.
economists, then they will be like Jim Chalmers. They'll have a moderate life, but they'll have a calm and far more peaceful life for the happiness of their children and for themselves. So, a person who is going back there has to think that.
Mm.
But one thing you can be sure, you will never achieve the same quality of life.
Mm. Mm.
Why?
Maybe.
1.4 billion people with one third the country size of this country, for example.
True. True. But that means there is a chance, or India at least sitting in on that it can overall improve the lives of people from really like utterly poor people to little bit high up, and middle class will go up a little bit, and so that it will be a more disparities will go down a little bit, and that will be the better way for India with this little conversation. So so Indians, or young Indians, young educated Indians rather, to be very precise, the way, because when we are in 20s and 30s, 20s rather, if we miss that opportunity to go to abroad from India, it was kind of a lost opportunity for us. Okay, that perception is slowly changing. What they should do, like, is it like going to Australia or going to abroad is the only and only one option, or it's kind of diluted and they can be good in India, or immigrant?
From what I have studied,
Yeah.
it is very important to be good in your own country.
Mm.
There is a thesis by Michael Porter who says if your business is successful in your own land, country, or you can call Bengal is a country because 100 million people is a country.
Yes.
So if you are successful in Bengal, you will be successful in Bombay. That is his thesis. Given that, the probability of my success in my own country is about 85-90%. If I'm pursuing, like you said, pursuing studies, pursuing knowledge, pursuing trade, pursuing profession, probability of success is about 90%,
Which is high.
which is significant.
So on that, we better end this podcast.
Okay.
And so it's basically for the young people globally who would like to immigrant, who would like to be immigrant, or who would like to immigrant into another country for a better life or anything. Think twice.
Yeah, no, you moderate your expectation.
or moderate your expectation. Yes, because everyone is aspiring to be a millionaire,
It's
billionaire.
an expectation problem. It is not a problem of money or culture or society or per capita income or I can buy a house. It got nothing to do with it.
It's all expectation.
It is expectation.
On that, we should end this.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dilipka. Thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
very much.
Thank you.